So, moving on to the last subject of the session, which is um, the Black Lives Matters ban at the Japan 2021 Olympics. So, for those of you who are not aware of what we're talking about, I'm going to read just a little bit from this article. Um, it's actually from TMZ, and it is speaking on the fact that the Tokyo Olympics have barred Black Lives Matter apparel. So the title of the article is Tokyo Olympics athletes barred from wearing Black Lives Matter apparel at ceremonies. This was actually published on 5/5/2021, and it says Tokyo Olympics athletes will not be allowed to wear Black Lives Matter apparel at game ceremonies this summer. Officials have confirmed that that's part of the ban on protests and political messages. The IOC revealed its broad policy 2 weeks ago on no demonstrations on the field of play during an official ceremony or at the podium. But the Associated Press reported this week officials have now confirmed Black Lives Matter apparel is included in that ban. So, one more important thing, though, is that officials, though, say Black Lives Matter slogans will be allowed during at least some part of the games, such as press conferences, during interviews, and at team meetings. So, with that said, fellas, I'm going to go ahead and throw this to E-Man to start us off. But the gist of this matter is, you know, let's talk about our thoughts about the ban, as well as our thoughts on, obviously the impact that this have on the sports community and the Black community. So, E-Man, I'm going to throw this to you to start us off. What say you, sir?
Thank you. First things first, but well, for me, I really don't have an issue with the ban, you know, um, and for me, I'm not going to speak towards my others on the panel, but for me, I don't support Black Lives Matter because I know it's a hate group and whatnot, and the reason why I say this is because, you know, the supposedly founders, of Black Lives Matter, and you know, are part of the LGBTQP community and whatnot. And I don't have anything against them and whatnot because I don't, because I've worked with a lot of before and it doesn't bother me at all. But you know, I haven't seen Black Lives Matter do anything other than just chanting just those three words and whatnot. And I've listened to a lot of rants about this and whatnot. You know, from all I mean all different angles. We're talking about those who are Black, European, and whatnot have all said the same thing. But I've always been behind this ever since whenever this thing started. So banning it doesn't even bother me at all. It won't even change the simple fact that, but them, I would say, towards, I would say, the Black community, I would say definitely, like, for those who believe in Black Lives Matter, I don't feel like you haven't held that organization to a huge accountability, and if that's what you feel uncomfortable with like supporting Black Lives Matter, doesn't matter to me or whatnot. But you got to hold that whole thing to a huge accountability, but you guys don't. It's mostly been just basically being part of something so we can uprise from something. And I've listened to a lot of people, talk about this whole Black Lives Matters thing. Even um, um, other towards like rappers who supported, who talked about this, and you know, I can't get behind a movement that I already know it's a hate group, And I told people I only get behind things that is going to unify us to be better and do better. And Black Matters hasn't shown that to me at all. And that's and to me, I can say it's fine, I can say it's cool, but you know, I'm sitting here every day and they talk about heinous hate crimes and whatnot. And the most hate crimes that I keep hearing on the news is mostly about those who are Asian and whatnot. But yet, the Olympics is being played in Tokyo, which is kind of interesting because you know it talks because it seems like this push is going to be talked more about more and more Asian hate. So I feel like the narrative behind this is just being changed yet again. So I feel like there's going to be a huge battle about not just about Black Lives Matter, but like what this is really about. Is it about the Olympics, or is it about the Olympics being in Tokyo that we can, talk about how much Asian hate is out there in the world, or the simple fact that there's Asian hate out there, and now we can push it on a large scale because of the Olympics. There's so many angles that's going on with this. But you know, if those who believe in it, you just got to hold it down to a more accountability. I don't because I know what it is. You know, I don't believe in hate, and I believe in righteousness. So nothing's not going to change unless we start changing it. So you know, it's not a win. It's not a loss. I can't even say it's neutral. It's basically, you know, they have every right to do what they want to do. And I feel, the people who are put just like how Pat talks about how basketball. I think what you said, basketball is what left. What it's left wing.
Oh, NBA
Football's
is
right.
left wing.
Yeah,
Yeah, NBA left
yeah,
wing, NFL
wing.
right wing.
Right. So the NBA, NBA players, they basketball is the biggest Olympics. It's the biggest. That's the biggest event and whatnot. That's the biggest event because that's the one that draws in the money. One, two, and that's the one that the players get more respect than anything itself. Not from all the other events there, but that's the one that draws in the most. You know,
Well, I would
so
have thought racing would have done,
that's
well too,
how the
like the.
Olympics started.
Mm-hmm.
But many of the track and field events,
Mm-hmm.
are not known to too many people now because now basketball has now been in the Olympics. Now
Mm-hmm.
they've changed the aura of it, because
Right. More superstar athletes
please,
play on the, Olympics team than, superstar runners that we have. Like, the days of Usain Bolt and all these
yeah,
other folks are who have since retired
mm.
has kind of changed the attention to it. Okay, that makes sense. I understand.
and that's what it is. So now we have to now draw a new attention to get back to what the Olympics is. Like, you know, we got to get new attention. Like when it comes to all the racing events, who is going to be that new Usain Bolt that who's going to get us back, enjoying like the 100, the 400, the relays and whatnot, the shot put, and the discus, which I love a lot that I coach and whatnot. But those field events, and those track and field, where the core started from. But now, when it comes to the Olympics, it's definitely, mostly about basketball. Because I have a colleague who went to Penn State with me, who actually is on the U.S. fencing team and whatnot that helped win, gold U.S. fencing in the last Olympics and whatnot. and she's been training crazy for this new Olympics that's coming into Tokyo and whatnot, you know. But not too many people know about fencing, you know, and that's the thing. Like we care so much about, you know, the big things like this because basketball is on a large scale, but that's what everyone knows. So that's what's going to draw people in. You know, many people don't know what the core is from the Olympics. You know, it was a, you know, part of the Olympics, but they've been trying to run a historical event out of the Olympics. Why? So they can focus more on bigger things like basketball and, you know, bringing other things. They were talking about bringing football into the Olympics and whatnot. I was like, how are you going to do something like that? You know? So it it's just it's all about this whole picking and choosing thing. And basically Black Lives Matter is one of those things, you know, because this is something, you know, that we can it's a platform that they want us to use so we can fit in to get what we want. But at the end of the day, we're not getting anything back in return. And that's why I tell everyone that I don't support it. You know, there's nothing in return that we're at all. But saying a phrase comically every time when something happens, and yet nothing don't change. You know, but that's just, you know, that's just my thoughts on it. You know.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing, sir. Mr. PAT, if you don't mind, I think I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts and then you wrap us up on the subject.
Yeah, that's
If
cool.
that works for you.
Yep, that's
Okay.
cool.
So I think that I want to just start by saying a few things, Eman. For the most part, I definitely agree that this is a situation where there are a lot of dynamics related to this issue, right? The fact that it is occurring in Japan post the, you know, Asian hate crime movement that we've just recently gone through and etc. I think there's definitely some angle and significance there. I do want to go ahead and make sure that it is clear to all of our listeners out there that, again, here at The Good, the Bad, and the Truth, we all express our individual opinions on matters, and they are not necessarily representative of the group as a whole. And most certainly, it is never our intention to offend or to imply that everyone doesn't have the right to equal human rights across the board. And with that said, I just want to make clear that I happen to disagree on the aspect of Black Lives Matter being mostly an LGBTQ movement. To my knowledge, there is, or at least there has been some confirmation that the two creators of the Black Lives Matter movement were lesbian women. I'm not exactly sure what the significance of that is for what they were trying to accomplish, because the point, and or at least my understanding of the intention of the movement, was to bring attention to the fact that to the powers that be, Black lives do not seem to matter equally to the lives of whites and even other minorities, right? And again, I use these colloquialisms and terms as they are used in society, not because they are my beliefs, because Black and white are reflections. They're not even colors. So to call human beings those terms are basically just what the most common terms that are being utilized are. But the point that I'm trying to get to here is that I really, for me, do not care about the origin of the creators. You know, their sexual orientation or their origins as far as who they are or Black people is important only to the extent that if their intent was to start a movement that brought attention to the social injustices that we face in today's society as Black people, they accomplished that, because Black Lives Matter is not saying, and I want to address this because I am tired of hearing this argument from people who are choosing to be willfully ignorant on this subject. Black Lives Matter does not imply only Black Lives Matter. And I know those
Right.
who
That's
make
true.
that argument, well, how come only Black? I know you know better. I know you know
And you
that it
see
is
why?
not implying that only Black Lives Matter, but rather Black Lives Matter as well. The entire point of the movement, though, is we shouldn't have to say the as well, because we are human beings just like everyone else. The intent of the Black Lives Matter movement is our lives and our ability to live our lives as we seem fit should be at an equal circumstance to everyone around us. And if you live in the United States and claim that that is the case today, you are a flat out ignorant liar, and you're ignorant by choice. There is no way to deny the injustices that Black people face in the United States anymore. Social media took that gift of being willingly ignorant away from you. You are educated and you have the means to become educated enough to know that Black people do not have the same rights as everybody else in an equal playing field, for that matter, in many forms. We are not hired at the rate of our counterparts. We pay more in general for some of the same services and resources that are basically given away to white people. We even get higher interest rates when we have a credit score that's equivalent to a white counterpart. Let's not even talking about the cents to dollar as far as being paid in the exact same field as your white counterpart, whether you're a Black male or a woman. So for me, just speaking on the intent of the Black Lives Matter movement and what it has accomplished, I think it has done its job of bringing one of the most serious issues that we face in recent times, which is the cop killings, right? Because that's what initiated the Black Lives Matter movement. And I want to say that it really got prevalent with the case of Sandra Bland, right? That's when I recall, to my recollection,
I think it
is
was
when
Trayvon Martin, but
I'm sorry.
No, it
I
was
was just,
Trayvon. It
I
was
want to say it
Trayvon.
was Trayvon Martin,
Yeah, it was
but I mean,
Trayvon.
it was all around the same time. I think
Okay,
Sandra
so
Bland,
it
Trayvon
It
could
Martin.
was mostly
definitely be
Trayvon.
Trayvon Martin, but I know for a fact that for me, I would say the Say Her Name and the Black Lives Matter movement really became something that I started paying attention to with the Sandra Bland tragedy. And of course, let me make this clear. I'm in no way saying that Trayvon Martin's death was not a tragedy. Of course it was. I want to make that clear. But I'm saying, for me, particularly Black Lives Matter, when I recall it becoming prevalent, meaning when it really started being, something that you heard often and something in the media, was with that case. And I would say that if their intent was to disrupt the calm that remained even after all these innocent Black people were losing their lives at the hands of racist police officers, then it accomplished that. As far as being able to protest and show support of Black Lives Matter at the Olympics, and the fact that that has been removed, I say that that is not surprising to me, because there are always going to be initiatives to silence people at their largest forms. Right? The Olympics is one of the largest stages that Black athletes could go up there and speak their truths about Black Lives Matter and etc., and have it reach some of the largest audiences across the world, right? That otherwise it would not be as easy to reach. So of course there's an initiative to shut that down, right? There was an initiative to shut that down in the 70s and 80s when we had our Black athletes go out on that podium after winning the gold and throwing up the power sign. There's an initiative to shut down Black athletes in America every day by telling them, especially basketball players, to shut up and dribble. There's an initiative to shut down our voices when you tell Colin Kaepernick he's lost his job, he doesn't deserve his job back because he kneeled at the face of Black people losing their lives to these police officers. I mean, all of these protests are at forums where we have the ability to make a large impact. And of course, that's why they want to shut that down. What I would say is, if I was a Black athlete, I would not, and I mean not, perform in these Olympics. Because to me,
and that would be
you
so
do not
dope.
have the right to silence. You do not have the right to silence my humanity. And that's what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to accomplish. This is not about Black Lives Matter particularly. This is about them trying to silence the Black community's right to speak on the inhumane and injustices that we face on a daily basis. And I say to them, fuck you. If I was a Black athlete, I would say, fuck you, fuck your Olympics. I'm not performing.
Well, that is extremely powerful. And before I even say anything first, I just want to make this all clear. Colin Kaepernick doesn't even want to play in the NFL. He good and whatnot. Now he's on $20 million. He got his money that he wants. Just all saying it out there. But if all Black athletes do not even participate in this Olympics, I'm going to put it out there to the whole universe and whatnot. I'll let them know and whatnot. And this is coming from E-Man. If y'all pull something like that off and y'all do that, my damn and whatnot, I would literally, all right? Literally, right? I would put out a donation to all y'all organizations up front. No lie and whatnot. It will be a small donation, but I will donate to all y'all causes if y'all decide, every single last one. And that includes you too, LeBrick. Every single last one of y'all and whatnot. If y'all pull something off like that, because that's probably going to be the most powerful thing in the world.
Put some respect on LeBron's name.
Yeah. You know,
that man called that LeBron James, not LeBron James.
I caught that LeBrick. I was like, oh,
LeBrick too. Yes, you up there too, LeBrick and whatnot. Yeah,
we love you, King James.
So if y'all all pull it, I will put out a donation to all you guys if y'all willing to. That would really show me y'all about that life. That would show me
that that's realistic, right? Like, of course, I'm not saying that realistically that's what will occur, right? That all Black people are going to pull out the Olympics. But what I am saying is, me as an individual, if I were an athlete to perform in this Olympics and someone came to me and say, hey, here is something that may be very prevalent and close to your heart and is representative of the injustice you face as a human being just for being Black, but you can't support it in order to participate in my event, I would say, fuck your event. You know what I mean? Like, that's just me as an individual. I mean, because you think about it, all Black people pull out the Olympics and they continue on with it. Anyone who wins gonna have an asterisk near that win. Yeah, you won, but you didn't compete against all the best athletes in the world because Black people didn't participate, because you all didn't value a movement that represented the struggles that we faced in America enough to even allow us to represent it at your event.
That's their fault. That's their fault.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's their fault. If they want to put an asterisk on that, the whole Olympic committee can go fuck themselves if they got to do all that. Damn fucking straight. Boom.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're already saying Black Lives Matter, not allowed. So, yeah, at the end of the day, I think it boils down to, just having enough respect as individuals to determine what means more to you. Is it more important to you? And that's not to say the ones that are still going to elect to play, don't care about Black Lives Matter or don't care about their Black community. I'm not saying that. They totally could care. However, I think this is going to boil down to individual morality, right? What's important to them the most? Because I know for me, I don't give a fuck about your stupid gold medal if you're asking me to forget all of to forget the importance of being able to speak on a worldwide forum about all of the people who have lost their lives, to be able to showcase that I'm proud to be Black, that I'm proud to support Black Lives Matter, that I'm proud to support the fact that Black people have suffered injustices for years and decades and et cetera, and that we're tired of that shit and we're not going to sit by and allow it to happen anymore. If you ask me to silence myself for your piece of rock, I'll take your rock and shove it up your ass before I participate. But that's just me.
Yeah.
And look who over here cursing and whatnot. Like I said.
I'm sorry, I got passionate on this one. I was waiting for this subject because I was like, come on, bro, they really tried to play us. But yes, I picked up a little bit of E-Man's vernacular this episode.
Oh, good.
So apologies to all my fans, like, ooh, Naya's spicy tonight. I had to get it out, but but okay, good stuff. So we're going to throw it to Mr. PAT to wrap us up on the subject. What say you, sir?
Man, how do I follow that up?
I like how my spirit. Man, I just love how my spirit of cursing, like this whole session. And
I had a potty mouth from I picked up my potty mouth from E-Man.
I mean, we all got a potty mouth, this is the good, the bad, and the truth. So, people know
mine's a little bit nasty and raw though, but
exactly, Pat. Exactly right.
They know the deal. But yeah, that came with that fire. Listen, my take, and by the way, I agree with what y'all were saying. Naya, I definitely agree with your sentiment and everything you said. I couldn't say it any better. Pretty much your stance, I agree with. My take on this is that Black Lives Matter apparel being banned is not really surprising to me. I'll be honest and say that I don't care about the organization itself. I'm kind of like with E-Man on this as far as I'm not a fan of the organization, Black Lives Matter. I don't know if I'd call them a hate group, so to speak.
Right, exactly.
But I see them as controlled opposition. That's just how I look at them.
No, that's a great point, especially considering that I've heard that they've actually, the original creators sold the business to like a white-owned corporation or something like that. I want to say that is allegedly the case.
Right. Yeah, I've heard some things, and of course, George Soros' name is in the mix, and
his daughter also. His daughter is one of the supposedly owners and whatnot.
There's definitely some theories out there. I'm not gonna put on the tinfoil fitted hat and come with the conspiracy theories if people want that, but there's theories out there, and I've read them, and I think there's some truth to some of it. But anyway, so basically with the organization itself, I see them as controlled opposition in the grand scheme of things. So I support the phrase. I always tell people when it comes to Black Lives Matter, it's not even about the organization for me. It's not about the group. It's about the phrase. The phrase in and of itself is making the statement that Black Lives Matter too. Just like you said, like Black Lives Matters too. It's not about only Black Lives Matter. But some people want to act stupid and act like that's what it's saying, and then they want to come with their all lives matter bullshit when in reality, these people know. The fact is these people are just racist. Let's just put it out there. They're just racist. They don't like to hear that Black Lives Matter. So their response is,
and that's how you start hate. That's why I call it a hate group.
Well, I wouldn't call them a hate group.
No,
I'm not gonna go that far because there's definitely some real hate groups out there,
right? Like the KKK,
right? Like the KKK, the Proud Boys,
exactly.
Nazi groups. We go on and on these white
right?
Groups. But I said what I said is we could look at them as more hate groups, I would say.
Yeah, because they're actually not only inciting the hate, they're inciting violence,
right,
with those groups, whereas there has not been any evidence whatsoever of Black Lives Matters inciting violence, saying go out and kill this person or go out and do this. KKK are actively inciting and implementing violence against the groups that they hate. The same with the Proud Boys and etc. So there's a difference there.
Yeah, you should question the Democratic Party on that one, but you're saying because that's who they are.
Well, you mean I mean the thing with that to address that real quick is there is Antifa, which I'll admit I don't know a whole lot about them. Don't really give much of a shit, to be honest. I mean, because again, I see them as controlled opposition as well. Of course, you got the Proud Boys on one side, which is the right side, the right wing, going back to the right wing nut jobs. And then, of course, there's the left wing nut jobs, the left, which is Antifa, which to my knowledge, they're an anarchist group. And they get in the mix of Black Lives Matter protests. And really, they're the ones starting the trouble within the protests. Because then I
think that's a narrative from I think that Antifa and their the accusations against them that they're starting all this trouble was propaganda that was used by Trump. I don't think that and I'm not a supporter of Antifa. I'm also not against Antifa. I am indifferent to Antifa, just like I am indifferent to most political activism. But there has never been any evidence other than claims by Donald Trump that Antifa was actually involved in any kind of interaction or altercation with any group. There's like, for instance, no members of Antifa have ever been arrested for anything. It's like it's one of those things where Trump actually made those statements and comments, and in my opinion, folks ran with it without doing the appropriate research. Because again, I don't know everything about them at all, but they're a movement. And just like the Black Lives Matter movement or any other movement, there are definitely going to be people who are, negatively impacting the movement. But with Antifa, there's not even anyone who's actually officially been arrested as a member of Antifa for anything.
Right. I feel what you're saying. And here's the thing. Here's why I guess I mentioned Antifa, because the thing is, when Black Lives Matter, when these protests occur, and of course shit happens, there's the looting and the rioting and all this other stuff that of course people like to focus on, and they want to blame Black people for. But the thing is, when I mention Antifa, it doesn't even have to be specifically them. It could just be individual white anarchists. So what I'm saying is there's anarchists, there's white anarchists who get all in the mix of those protests, of the peaceful protests, the Black Lives Matter peaceful protests, and they basically are the ones causing the chaos, because and then when people see it and hear about it, they blame Black Lives Matter for it, and of course we could say people on the right do that, because of course it's this whole bullshit with left and right, it's conservatives saying that, oh well, Black Lives Matter did X, Y, and Z, when really it was some anarchists who got all in the mix and basically was causing trouble. So it basically looked like Black Lives Matter was behind whatever chaos occurred. You know, whether that's Antifa or some other white anarchist group or whatever. The fact is, there are anarchists who are getting all in the mix, and they're taking advantage of the peaceful protests, or they're taking advantage of the protests and turning it into something else for their own personal gain, or whatever. But anyway, we got a little off topic. We're still on the same topic. I know I went off on a tangent with that, but
no worries. we kind of went into the different movements.
Right. And it all ties back to this, what we're talking about, because at the end of the day, this is about Black Lives Matter, and of course it being banned in the Olympics. So going back to what I was saying, so yeah, I mean, I support the phrase. The phrase is just making the statement that Black Lives Matters too. Unfortunately, society has been set up and engineered and structured in a way where no one is supposed to give a fuck about Black life. So the world does need to hear that Black lives do matter. It's really that simple. The world needs to hear that, unfortunately. The world needs to be reminded, because if you don't give the reminder, people are going to act stupid, and people are just not going to give a fuck about Black life like they've been doing.
It's funny. It's very funny you say that, because when it comes to reminders, who do you think get reminded the most, adults or children? Mostly children, right? Because it takes an adult to tell a child what to do.
Right, absolutely. And I know this because I got my son, I got a child, so yeah, you got to remind it constantly.
Yeah,
children
constantly
need reminders.
So
but here's the thing, though. It's funny you say that, because since you mentioned children, that's really how a lot of people and I'm talking grown folks, they have the mind state of children.
That's what I was about to get to.
Be highly offensive to a lot of people, but I don't care. It is what it is.
That's what it is.
People have the mind state of a child,
and that's what majority of everyone it's a good majority of them.
It's a majority, yeah. It's a majority, and
it's a good majority.
It's a good majority of people who just they're perpetual children. They're perpetual children. And we're talking grown folks. Grown folks. So that's what I'm saying. There has to be, I guess, a reminder, because some of us real grown folks out here, we have to tell these childlike minded folks out here, Black lives matter. Like, like, you're taking offense to it. Not that I really give a shit, because at the end of the day, my life fucking matters. My family's life matters. My friends' lives matter. Black lives matter. Take it or leave it. And the thing is, we're not looking for approval. I mean, we're gonna assert it. It is what it is. Like, our lives matter. So that's the whole thing with the phrase. So the apparel, the clothing being banned, along with protests being banned, does have bigger implications. And I think y'all had mentioned a few things. I mean, there's definitely layers to this. I mean, it's just yet another way for the powers that be to basically say that they don't give a damn about Black life. It's just yet another way for them to say that. Now, to be fair, the International Olympic Committee, for the most part, has had a ban on, and I'm quoting this from an article that I came across. They've had a ban on, quote, demonstration or political, religious, or racial propaganda, end quote, on the playing field, the medal stand, or during the official ceremonies of the games. So they've had some type of ban, they've had that. And that's what I'm saying, to be fair. It's not like something new that they came up with.
Right. But, yeah, no, that's a good point, because I read in that article about this again, that, this was something that they had already discussed as a part of the original ban, it was recently confirmed that Black Lives Matter does fall into that category. You're absolutely correct, because they've revealed this broad policy about that 2 weeks ago.
Right. And yeah, exactly. And then this year they're making it a point to ban Black Lives Matter gear. Now the thing is, I don't think it's just about the gear. It's also about banning the protests, which, you know, of course we all agree on. But they're okay with more generic words like, for example, peace, respect, solidarity, inclusion, and equality. They're okay with those words being on apparel. But Black Lives Matter, nope.
Yeah.
You don't want it.
Yep.
Now, what I would also say is, I wonder if they feel that way about the whole Stop Asian Hate thing. You know, is that banned also? And I know that's not an organization or anything. That's not, you know, but I know that's like a growing thing right now.
It's
you know,
funny
which,
you say
which
that
I think
also,
a lot of it's propaganda. But yeah, so I'm wondering if they have that, or if there's a ban on that. Where
you know what's so funny? I feel like someone's gonna wear a shirt that says that. Just I'm putting it out there right now. I feel like someone's gonna put a shirt on. I feel it's just how this whole thing with the Olympics being in Tokyo. I feel like that's gonna be the whole new like spell slogan. Stop Asian hate. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I wonder that same thing too. And then, yeah, what's interesting is the Olympics taking place in Tokyo, and you know, the committee basically singling out Black Lives Matter. I find that interesting. And it's interesting, especially at a time where there is all this propaganda about crimes being committed against Asians by Black people, which is straight up BS. Let's put that on the table right now. That is BS. There isn't
everyone, and they love Black people too.
There isn't this big crime wave or crime spree against Asians, and it's not being perpetuated by Black people. It's a lie. It's false, and it's propaganda.
They all love Black people. There's no crime syndicate going on. I don't know who made up this
love Black people.
Yeah.
No, I can't agree.
Not all.
Yeah, I'm not gonna agree with that.
Not all, but
yeah,
I would tell it.
Every area there are those who don't, you know what I'm saying? There's that, and especially in the Asian community, one of the things that I have come to agree with is that there is this kind of underlying issue of the model minority in the Asian community, right?
There is,
where they are seen by white people or Caucasian people as the model minority, because for the most part, they think they're just going to own their businesses and stay in line and etc. And so there are some Asian people who look down on Black people and who look Black people as inferior, and it's not just in Asian. Sometimes it happens in Hispanic cultures and etc.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
and vice versa can be said about Black people too. But the fact of the matter is, I would not say that in any race, there's an instance of, they love us as much as we love them. No, there's a lot of pandering that is done to the white community by some of these other minorities, because they look at the Black race as inferior as well. I mean, sometimes you can turn on Telemundo and everyone looks like they have European features, and you're like, what is this about? Is this a coincidence?
No,
and so
it's weird though. It is, but once you go down to most, especially many indigenous places like down in South America, they literally majority of them actually look like my skin tone and whatnot.
Well,
there are Afro-Latinos and there are Afrocentric people in a lot of cultures across the world where you wouldn't expect that. Afro-Latino community is very large in certain areas in the North, especially like New York, DC, etc.
Right, and they face racism within their culture too. So, yeah, definitely. But no, to really, I guess, address, because I know E-Man said, you said Asians love Black people.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, I don't agree with that.
Right.
Of course, it's not a all love or all hate thing, because of course
it's not. But I did a little bit of my own research though. But I'm gonna let you finish though.
But here's the thing though. So I look at people as a group. I look at people as a group, whether racial or what
That's true.
whatever we want to call it, race, whatever, and just by and large. And I'm talking from personal experience and just even my own research and, going back to the whole model minority thing and just the, the overall relationship between Asians and Blacks. I personally do not see where they love Black people. Now, don't get me wrong. There are individuals, because this isn't no hate against Asians. Like, I don't hate anybody.
Right.
I don't hate any other race. I don't hate people of different races. It's not even about that. But we have to be honest here. There is anti-Black racism within the Asian community.
Absolutely.
And, so there are individuals who fuck with Black people, and I have Asian friends too. But the thing is, as a group, we have to look at them as a group. They're not fond of Black people. They don't.
Not all of them.
They don't love Black.
It's like with every race.
So. And that's like, and I think that's a whole nother layer to this Stop Asian Hate thing, because the thing is, when certain crimes happens to Asians, a lot of times when it comes to Black and Asian, there are altercations. Obviously that happens, but the thing is, it's been ramped up, especially this year, and things have happened between
Black, I blame the president for that, by the
Blacks
way,
and Asians, but it's over inflated. They're taking select instances where there's like not even like really serious altercations like that, really arguments, like verbal arguments.
And that has gone both ways, like instances where at nail salons or hair salons, etc., that some of the Asian employees have attacked Black folks and etc.
Yeah, and I've seen that too.
Exactly. I mean, because at the end of the day, and sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, PAT, just throwing this one thing out there. At the end of the day, there is no way that anyone that's a human being is not going to have some type of prejudice. You may not even recognize that you have it, but prejudices exist in human beings in general. And it's your responsibility as an individual to recognize when you are exuding that prejudice and do better going forward. So to say that a whole community of people loves everyone else or dislikes everyone else, either phrase would be inaccurate.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, this goes back to layers. There's definitely layers. There's no one size fits all. Like it's a very complex thing. But I guess we like, at least for me, I look at people as a group, because of course we could pick out individuals, we could cherry pick individuals who are the exception there, because there's always exceptions. There's always outliers. There's always people who don't exhibit a certain group behavior, but I look at people as a group. So I was just really addressing that, because when E-Man said that, I was like, huh? Like, yeah, I didn't see how, or I don't see how Asians, just as a group, love Black people. But it's neither here or there. But just to kind of wrap up what I was saying, all this is interesting. Of course, Black people being blamed for crimes that are being committed, against Asians, and some of the times it's white people who are committing crimes against Asians. So it could be Asians that are committing crimes against Asians too, because there's that as well. Because there's crime that happens amongst it's interracial. A lot of crime that happens within a race, it's intraracial, meaning it's race on race. It's proximity crime. So of course that happens.
That's true.
But the mainstream media, of course, took things to a whole nother level. They found a way to blame Black people for it. like I said, is bullshit. It's propaganda. They need to cut the bullshit out. And it's just another way. It's just another way for them to fearmonger, and another way for them to manufacture the public consent necessary for Black people to be punished. So I see the whole no Black Lives Matter at the Olympics thing as, and I'm gonna just say this, the Asians' way of asserting their stance against Black people. I mean, we have to be honest here. We all know there is anti-Black hostility amongst other races. So these groups will show their hostility in different ways. The International Olympic Committee explicitly banning Black Lives Matter gear, really, like I said before, I've said it quite a few times, it's more than just banning the clothing. They're basically saying, we don't want to hear you Black people protesting and fighting for your survival. They're basically saying, we need you Black people to just be quiet.
Exactly.
And protest.
Shut up and dribble.
Right. Shut up and dribble. Pretty much. Yeah, exactly. We need you Black people to basically just shut up and dribble. That's it. We need you Black people to just be quiet and protest on your own time. If you want to protest, if you really feel like your life is that important, protest on your time. Don't do it on our time. Mm-hmm. And, protest preferably in a quiet corner somewhere where we don't have to hear you. That's pretty much how I see it. And
I feel like that's what's going to happen, though.
But like I said,
I feel like that's what's going to happen.
It's just bigger implications. I think it's just one of those things where we got to read between the lines. Mm-hmm. And I know this could go off in different tangents, which, it did, but that's cool because it's all one big dialogue. And as we've all stated, there's layers, but we got to read the lines. Like I'm telling you right now, and I read the lines between things. Mm-hmm. And the whole banning of Black Lives Matter clothes, it ain't, it's not just about the clothes. Let's just put that out there. It's not about banning, the clothing. Mm-hmm. It's more than that, much more than that. But I'm gonna just leave it at that because, of course, we can go on about this forever. But
you're good, man. You good.
Yeah, you made some great points, Mr. PAT. I wholeheartedly agree with you on a lot of that, and I think this was definitely a sensitive subject that we all, put our 2 cents into. And at the end of the day, the point is that, the goal of us as human beings for everyone should be to treat each other the way we want to be treated. And I know that sounds cliche, but the reality of it is that starts with something as basic and as foundationally important as human rights. And until all of us are looked at as equals, which is never going to happen because human beings are the ones that are doing the looking, the only thing that we can do as individuals is take accountability for our own morality. You got to be willing to do the right thing every day. You got to be willing righteous. To step up and love each other and treat each other with the respect that we've earned from just being human beings. And until that day happens, movements like Black Lives Matters and etc. will not go away. So I think we all made some very valid points.